Hi, this is Glenda. I just thought I'd do a little share on my experience with this damp and die set that I bought, and I have to say it was not a happy one. I was really looking forward to getting this because I thought, oh, it's interesting, it's different. I have to say I was influenced by the packaging as to what the size would be. Clearly, the giraffes you stamp are nothing to do with the packaging. They just are smaller than I expected. I don't know why, because I'd watched the two videos that were available. Christina Warner and Sandy Olnock both have a video on these. They're Art Impressions twist ties, and this one's the giraffe. And yet they looked bigger somehow. Anyway, that's a minor point. The first thing, on the back of the packaging they give you measurements to cut your card, and they're wrong. It makes a gatefold card. You need an overlapping gatefold card. I don't know what they mean there, but that was really disappointing. I ended up with a stack like this of wasted A4 paper because it's slightly bigger than A5, so when I had a huge pile I did resort to trying an A5 one because I was just sick of wasting paper. It is one of the hardest things to line up that I have ever purchased, which I found disappointing. There was absolutely no help on the website whatsoever. Sandy Olnock gave some measurements which were mostly right, but one of her score marks was wrong. So I'll just move these. She gave the measurements of 9.5 by 5.5. And to score it 2.5, and then she said 7, which was wrong. It should be 6 3/4. So if you're doing this, this does work, 2.5 and 6 3/4. She said to flip it and do it at 2 3/4. Oh, even that's wrong, because that's 3. Anyway, 2.5 and 6 3/4, which I've just scored wrong. I've scored it at 6.5. You can, sorry, I'm still not well and my brain is not where it should be, which has not helped this experience. So anyway, that was the first thing, getting the card size right. So the next thing is to actually line it up. I'm not sure how I'm going to do this with the camera there, but I'm hoping I don't bump you. Anyway, what I ended up doing, where's my, this way, the wider side is what will be the left hand side. I ended up making little templates because it is such a cow to line up. So let's see, that's that one and that one. So this acetate sheet, the My Sweet Petunia page has a download you can do to just print off an acetate sheet like that. So what I did to make it, I'm lining up the bottom corner. This is before I've stamped my image, because you only need to do that part once unless it wears out. I'm lining up the bottom of the grid with the bottom of my paper. At this point it doesn't have an image on it. Then I got the stamp and the die. So there's the die, and you have to line that up along the edge of your paper. And I got the stamp, and you've got to get this little L down the bottom of your paper. So I put my stamp in the die so I could see it lined up. Oops, you don't want anything to move. So lined it up like that. You want that to stay straight. That's the hard part, because it's really hard to tell where they consider that to be straight because you're lining up with such a tiny little L here. So I did that. I got my stamp, took away the die, and I made my impression on here. And I did the same thing for both sides. So then when you come to actually stamp, so we assume this is a different session, I've put down my card exactly the same. I've got my acetate right into the corner of my MISTI, and then I've put my paper lined up on the grid there. Then I can line my stamp up over the image that I've made and hopefully stamp in the right position. And that was the only way I got anything remotely like a consistent result that worked. It really is a Calva thing. And it was not cheap by any means. I think it cost me about $34 in Australia, which was not unsubstantial for, you know, what may not get that many uses, especially since it's become so fiddly. Hoping this is on camera. I should check. Yeah, probably. So we stamp one side and repeat it over here with this one, tucking it right into the corner and lining up the card with the edge of the grid. Putting the stamp down on the image. Take away the plastic. This card I chose has a bit of texture to it, and that was another thing. It's when you come to fold it, it's so finicky that if you use anything thick, you've got no wiggle room at all, and if you use anything thin, then the giraffes are really flimsy. Also, I'm not sure how they managed to coat colour on them, because it all just shows through if you've got thin card. So then, in theory, whoops, wrong side, the dies will line up, and this one is still out a fraction, I can tell already. It's because I'm going to have to chop off that little edge. That should be right up against the edge, and I think this one might not be too bad. There's a bit of tape. Okay, I'll run that through. Okay, one of them's just popped straight off nicely. So on this one I've got to trim a tiny little bit here. And I noticed both Sandy and Christina trimmed around to make this a bit tighter. So what I did then, except because I made that score line in the wrong spot. Sorry, this is... Oh, I'm just a bit over this at the moment. What did I do with my bone folder? There it is. Fold one of them firmly. Then you bring the heart over and try and line it up before pushing down and committing, and now my card's cracked. Yeah, I'm not having a good time. That's the first time my card's cracked. I shouldn't have used this card. But that's been the kind of experience I have had with this. And then they interlink. Yeah, so I just thought I'd share the workarounds that I have come up with for this. I don't know if they're any use. I'm not encouraging anybody to buy this. They're cute enough, but yeah, without the expert Copic colouring they don't come up as well either, which I don't happen to have. So I tried pencils and markers, and that's my share for today, such as it is. If you do want it, that's the die. Thanks for watching.